So, I would like to welcome you to the Governor's Jobs Tour and the Entrepreneurs Roundtable on creating an innovation economy in Connecticut. If I thought you were going to remember only one thing about the Innovation Center, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patty Marr, one of the founders of the Innovation Center. The one thing would be that we are laser focused on accelerating the entrepreneur's journey. The people around this table, the entrepreneurs in this room, are our customers. And everything that we do, everything that we accomplish, from economic diversification to jobs creation, you name it, is going to be based on the fact that we are helping these people succeed. So our mission is very simple. We're here to accelerate, to incubate companies, and to catalyze the entrepreneurial community. And if I could verbally underscore that community word, I would. And the reason is that from experience, we have all learned that when you take a high caliber entrepreneur and you wrap a community of people and organizations who are totally dedicated to their success, when you wrap that around an entrepreneur, they have the absolute best chance of winning their game. So that's what we're going to do here in the Innovation Center, which was a collective vision, and with today's announcements we'll be getting much closer to being reality. We're going to be bringing into this beautiful place, which will become a center of gravity for entrepreneurship and innovation. We're bringing in investors. We've got a few in the room today. We're bringing in corporate partners and service providers. We're bringing in experienced entrepreneurs and mentors. We're bringing in and helping to support the talent that the entrepreneurs around this table and others need to grow their businesses. It's really that simple. That's what we're about. That's what we're trying to do. And with that thought, I'd like to turn the floor over to Tim Curtin, who is the chairman of the Old Town Hall Redevelopment Authority, who's been working with us, along with Laura Aubuchon, for over a year to try to find a way that we could turn this iconic building into the Stamford Innovation Center. So, Tim?
Thank you, Patty. About 16 years ago, I think it was, Dan invited me to serve in his campaign cabinet, his first campaign for mayor, and that campaign was successful. And he asked me to stick around a little while, so believe it or not, I'm still there. The first or second day of his first term, he said, well, I got to get two things done, among many others, but two principal things was to save the Holly Mansion and restore Old Town Hall. And so we started, initially we formed committees, but the first committee for Holly Mansion, Len Miller stepped up with the Sound Waters organization, and they raised several $1 million. That building, which was in terrible condition, was restored. And also then a committee was formed for this building, and we had several iterations of that committee. Finally got the project underway and the project done. And we celebrated the 100th anniversary of this building about 3 years ago. The building was built in 1908. And so we look forward now to another maybe 100 years with the Stamford Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship as its main tenant, and doing wonderful things with Stamford. So it's really my privilege today to introduce to you Stamford's former mayor for 14 years. He turned the city around, and he's going to do the same thing for the state of Connecticut. Dan Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tim, thank you very much for the introduction. Tim is a good friend for many years, and it's always a pleasure to be with him and see him. I want to thank everybody else for being here, certainly the Bavia administration. I want to thank them for all that they're doing around job creation, job retention, and job growth. I'm certainly very happy to be with all of you The Commissioner, Department of Economic Development will be joining us. There's some traffic problems on 95, so and she was coming down from Hartford. I had actually gotten down earlier that day and had a series of meetings, so I was a little late, simply just because the meetings ran over, but she's tied up in traffic and will join us at some point. What this is, obviously I want to hear her talk to you all, but since June, Catherine and I have been traveling the state to talk about job growth, job retention in the state of Connecticut. After all, we're one of only 2 states that has failed to create jobs in the last 20 years, one of 3 states that failed to create jobs over the last 22-year period of time. And I'm embarrassed to say that we're dead last on both of those lists, so that means that Michigan, which actually had an excuse, actually did a better job than we did, even though they were losing so much of the automobile industry. Giving that little speech is a little bit different in Fairfield County, because if any area has outperformed, it's Fairfield County versus the rest of the state. But that outperformance has not allowed us to see any net job growth in the state as a whole. The last day of the session, and Senator France was sitting there a minute ago. There he is. And a member of the legislature. And I gave an address at 12:05 a.m. To the combined House and Senate, and I said that sometime this fall I would be calling them back into special session to take up the issue of job growth and job retention. And we are finalizing, as we speak, but we're going to have a number of additional sessions, what those proposals will look like, and they'll be given to the legislature well in advance of that special session in the hopes that we can quickly adopt some changes in our approach to job retention and job growth, fine-tune some of the tools that we have in our toolbox, and put additional tools in our toolbox to make sure that we are, in fact, doing everything we can to grow jobs in the state of Connecticut. Now, this particular stop with you all is an important one. We've had similar stops, I have to say, in New Haven and elsewhere, but I wanted to get back to Stamford to have this conversation with all of you. Now, you know, in New York, they've taken to describing their economy as fire and ice. Everybody knows what fire is. It's finance, insurance, and real estate. Big sector, big chunk of New York is devoted to that. Interestingly enough, a big chunk of Connecticut's economy is devoted to that. Different sides. In Fairfield County, certainly a fair amount of the financial side. In the Hartford area, certainly a large amount, and in Stamford, a large amount on the insurance side, reinsurance, as well as traditional lines, as well as the emerging technology firms, which are otherwise called as health insurers. But what we have not done enough of in the state, and only some of in Lower Fairfield County, is pay attention to ICE, and that can mean different things to different people. Intellect, culture, and education, or information, communications, and entertainment, or innovation, creativity, and environment, but it means a lot of what you all are doing. Stanford is absolutely the porthole to New York. There are, besides the similarities of our economic base, we're much smaller, but besides the similarities, if you were to dissect it, we share some of the same territory. We import workers from some of the same towns. We export workers to some of the same towns and cities. There's a lot in common. But clearly what we've not done in sufficient amounts in the state of Connecticut is to build an environment where more innovators, more inventors, more serial entrepreneurs feel that this is the place to set up shop, to start to grow their businesses. And so Catherine and I and others in our administration are very much focused on what we need to do to be more inviting. I know you're going to tell me we need more money. I know you're going to tell me that we need more people who supply money. And those are certainly things that we want to do. You'll probably tell me that Connecticut Innovations needs to be allowed to do more. And I think we agree on that. But what we intend to do, what I'd like to do, is have a discussion with all of you about what you think we need to do beyond those basic points, and certainly you can repeat those, but give us some specifics as well as we go through this discussion. And I'd be happy to share as much time as I'll be allowed to in that conversation. Good to see you. So somebody start. Or I'll give another speech.
Well, what we were going to do is go around the table and then very briefly allow them to do. They're very good at 30-second elevator speeches just to introduce.
Yeah, I have no money myself, so.
And it'll give you an opportunity to just very briefly describe what you do, and if you have a topic that you want to bring up, and then we'll go back and have you pick up on what everybody has said.
All right, so I'll start. My name is Mike Alatortsev. I'm one of the founders of Advection, global video CDN, content delivery network. We've delivered billions of streams. I'm 100% sure that all of you guys have used our services at one point or another, because we used a lot of resellers. So if you watch video online, you have used our services. Part of the reason I'm here, I feel like instead of asking for money, I think there's a way to actually get money. And I would like to launch for an investor, a center in Connecticut, which I think is a good way to generate quick cash and create jobs. And also fund this stuff.
Great.
So we can talk more.
Okay, awesome. I'm John Scordato. I was a summer fellow at the Entrepreneurial Institute, and the venture that I worked on coming out of that is called Scaled Liquid Systems. And basically, we were working on more efficient liquid cooling solutions for servers and data centers. The United States spends billions of dollars per year cooling data centers, and a large part of that is due to inefficiencies in cooling methods. So we're trying to introduce a much more efficient method that can cut that number in half. And what I'd like to talk about, and obviously money is an issue, but I think there are two things I think are more important. One, generally speaking, I think it's important to create a community of entrepreneurs to support each other and to share contacts and network. And I also think, from a hardware company standpoint, it's important we harness the manufacturing resources that are in Connecticut to help those early stage companies that maybe can't afford to do a lot of the expensive production and prototyping work that's often required.
Great. My name is Danny Boyer. I'm head of Startup Connecticut, which is working with a lot of the governor's staff to try to come up with some of these plans. But I'm here as an entrepreneur. I've got 4 startups of my own, 2 of which we're talking publicly about. Both are social entrepreneur organizations. One's focused on cutting costs of operating in schools, and the other one is focused on having people actually be able to use their mobile phones to create instant jobs and get paid over the mobile phones for work that they do on the mobile phone. Both of those are in beta now. The latter one is going into beta in China, Kenya, and India to show the global reach of that. One of the things I'd love to talk about is how the government of Connecticut itself could be a better customer of the startups in Connecticut. You've got problems that you need solved. We've got a lot of great energy around the table here that can help solve those problems. We're sort of not getting together to do those. So I've got a lot of focus on education. I'd love to work with the state to focus on solving a lot of education problems.
Harlan Newborn, It's Relevant. We are a new hyperlocals news, deals, and information service in Fairfield County and Stamford, Connecticut. Hopefully expanding to Fairfield County, the rest of Fairfield County shortly. If it moves in Stamford, we shoot it. And I think we produce more content than anybody else. And we have deals for local merchants that are cost effective, whereas everybody's used to the Groupon model where they keep 50% of the cost of the deal. We basically just charge people a small fee for being on our platform. And we're in a beta, a trial with 90 advertisers in Stamford. And hopefully they'll start converting to paying customers in a couple of weeks. Not sure, we have sort of basic little needs, like we want to do a mailing to all of Stamford. And it's like, it costs thousands of dollars to do that. There's got to be some address list that we can get access to. I mean, it's sort of, access to basic things and basic information is something, that's my largest expense, is reaching the public. If there's a way that we could work with the state of Connecticut to figure out cost-effective ways of reaching the public, that would be great, because that's where, besides people, that's where I spend my most money.
Your best and cheapest list would be your voter list. It's free.
Okay.
And
how do we get access?
You go down to the registrar of voters, and you tell them it's a public document.
Cool.
Great. And you know, listen, it doesn't include non-voters, but it includes voters. And if you're looking for a cheap list, that may be an interesting place to start. In Stamford, you know, 40% of them will be Democrats, 30% of them will be Republicans, the rest will be unaffiliated voters.
Of the, what roughly percentage of the, because you were here for so long, what percentage of the population are actual voters?
All the right thinking ones.
All the what?
Right thinking ones.
Ah.
Yeah. You know, I forget, you know, I have to carry around a lot of municipal statistics. It probably represents about 56% of households.
Okay.
Pretty good penetration rate.
Yeah.
And probably overrepresents seniors, which is probably bad, and underrepresents young people, which is probably bad.
Right.
But it's a place to start, and it probably doesn't cost you anything. Now, if I just undercut one of your businesses, I apologize.
Hi, Governor. Good to see you again. My mission is, well, first of all, my company is called 5 Billion Green Jobs. Our mission is to be from Stamford, the #1 U.S. green jobs organization. We're going to connect individuals, companies, and organizations to the emerging green markets. We want to simplify access to information and collaboration of information to enhance the process.
I'm Charles Morelli. Sorry I was late. I was in Stratford, our latest location for StopTix, which is digital signage that gives people the next upcoming trains in either direction. So we are in 7 locations, and by the end of today we're going to be in 10 locations. We're going to Springdale, we're going to Glenbrook, and then we're going over the state line to Larchmont. So we're really excited about that. We're already in Fairfield, Stamford, Darien, Roden Heights, I said Stratford, so that's why I was late. We were hanging the sign up. But effectively what we do is we keep patrons informed of the next coming trains, and our preference, all things equal, is to be in the local merchants and the areas of commerce so that they can have a cup of coffee, they can have a beer, they can pick up their dry cleaning, they can be at the gym. So that's kind of what we do. What we need is the ability to go into the stations. That's our big desire, is to go into the stations, and we appreciate that the state wants to get it right. So we know that that's a critical process that you would have to go through. But we couldn't be more excited to be giving people the ability to wait for a train and have a cup of coffee, and that's effectively what we are.